Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. I am the Takonome, and welcome to my humble slice of the internet that is my Twitch channel. How is everyone doing today I'm hoping for you, a lovely Saturday? Well, speaking of Saturday, it is time for the reading stream. As you may be aware, I took last Saturday off from the reading stream because I was meant to go out of town. However, there was a bit of a family emergency that came up, and so I could not go out of town, and I decided just to take Saturday off, not to try to scramble to get a reading stream ready. Plus, we did not have our book ready to go. Which, speaking of, we are beginning a new book tonight, and that book is Clockwork Twist, Book 3, Dreamer, by Emily Thompson. Now, this is the third, as you can tell from Book 3, this is the third book in the Clockwork Twist series. And yes, I have read this book before, but that was years ago, and I don't fully remember what happens in this book, so it should be fun and good times for all. So before we begin, let's give a little bit of a background, a bio of our author, Emily Thompson here. So for anyone who may not know, Emily Thompson is an author and artist originally from Northern California. Although she adores steampunk and all things Victoriana, she also writes occasional sci-fi and fantasy. After studying film and animation in university, she changed to a Japanese language focus and studied abroad in Tokyo for a year. She received a degree in Japanese and later spent nearly another 2 years in Japan teaching English and writing. She now lives in Washington and spends most of her time writing in coffee shops, painting, and playing far too many video games. And once again, and I believe I say this every time, I do not think you can play far too many video games. Within reason. I'm hoping I do not send bad messages for the quote-unquote youth out there, but I enjoy playing video games. I don't think you could have too many video games within reason. Next to me, we have our tea ready to go. We are back to the Clockmaker tea. And as always, my tea is very hot. Smells nice. And Erudite, hello, welcome to the stream. I'm happy we're finally getting into book 3. Some of my favorite characters show up in this one. I am curious because I cannot remember what happens in this book, but we are going to give the author of the book a shout out here. Here we are. I hope that you are having a lovely Saturday afternoon. And before I forget, again, not sponsored, but this is now a thing I do. The tea that I am drinking is from Friday Afternoon. Friday Afternoon, the tea shop in Seattle, Washington. So again, I'm drinking the Clockmaker. I have 2 other blends with me as well, which is Cage Heart and, what was it? Seattle Summer or Summer in Seattle. Granted, the Summer in Seattle blend is probably no longer available, but the Clockwork or the Clockmaker tea and the Cage Heart tea are certainly still available on their websites, which is fridaytea.com. Again, not paid by them. They probably still don't know that I'm doing this almost every Saturday. But if you're interested in some nice tea, I highly recommend them. One other, I suppose, announcement, more things that are going on. Starting with this reading stream, I am going to see if I can not only have the replay of this stream on Twitch, which only lasts about 2 weeks, but also move it over to YouTube as well. I do have a YouTube channel. I would like to start using it for something, and I feel maybe the reading stream would be best for that channel. We shall see, but that is the plan. So that way there could be a nice little repository of these reading streams without worrying about losing them because Twitch's 2-week limit. See if we could take a sip here. Oh, that is still very hot. Still very hot. Very well then. I suppose we will go ahead and begin. So once again, this is Clockwork Twist, Book 3, Dreamer. Let's see, please put up the other Clockwork books too. Well, I will do the other Clockwork books as well. 1 and 2, unfortunately, I'm not sure if I'll be able to pull off. Speaking of which, I guess this would be, I suppose if this would still be a announcement or whatnot for everyone, which is I still intend to do a clean audiobook reading of the Clockwork Twist books. I still need to actually start with book 1 for a cleaner read, which means I may have to change my streaming schedule to make this happen. One thing I've noticed is I stream roughly 3 times a week, and the other days of the week are busy with other things like housework and whatnot. And I think what I need to do, like with my streaming, is dedicate a day or set time to actually make this happen. So it may be this month, it may be next month, but I believe I'll be changing my streaming schedule probably to 2 set days, most likely Monday and Saturday. I will keep the reading stream. The reading stream is not going anywhere. Saturday at this time seems to be a good time for the reading stream. But the gaming streams, I'll probably cut that in half and dedicate one of those former times to doing the readings for these books. So I have not forgotten. I still intend to do this, and I'm also realizing how much work it will be, but I will certainly do it. I could definitely use a chill reading stream on this Thanksgiving weekend. Hello, Flame. How are you doing today? I know we were supposed to start the book soon, but I want to catch up here beforehand. I would like to recognize everybody who is in chat, as well as everyone who is listening and lurking. Oh my. I'm sorry to hear that, Flame. Let's see. Yes, this Thanksgiving weekend. Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. I saw Thanksgiving and I thought American Thanksgiving, but I remember that you are not in America. You're in Canada. So I did not know Canadian Thanksgiving was this weekend. I see. I'm very sorry to, I would say hear, but I'm actually reading what it is. But I'm sorry to hear that is happening with your mom. I hope that the care is, well, gentle, generous. I hope that she could continue to live the best life that she has for her. I'm stumbling over my words a little bit, but ultimately, I am wishing the best for your family and hoping that things turn out for the better. With that, let's dive into the book, shall we? So again, I got a book here. I have the physical copy. I decided for the Clockwork series, I could use the digital copies that I have, but I think it's more fun with the physical copies. And S-Ray, though, thank you for the lurk. I'm going to give you a quick shout out and then we will begin. So let's see. Opening up to book 3. Let's see. Well, there is a previously in Clockwork Twist. Let's go through the previously section first for anyone who may not know what is going on. So let us begin. Previously in Clockwork Twist. Twist's life used to be as steady and predictable as the clockwork he repaired. He never left London, and he wanted no companions beyond his clocks and his books. Yet, when he found that the mythical Clockwork Princess was not only real, but also in desperate need of repair and rescue, he gathered his courage and ventured out into the world. He joined the airship Vamana's crew of treasure hunters, or possibly pirates, and journeyed across the world as he strove to rescue the Clockwork Princess, Mira. Along the way, he made another good friend in the Sky Pirate and ex-Vamana crew member, Jonas Davis. Like some people in the world, Twist and Jonas each have a unique extrasensory ability called a sight. Some sights were fairly benign. Jonas's sister, Arabelle, possessed a sight that allowed her to find any item or person she could clearly envision. But Twist and Jonas's sight could both be rather dangerous to use and difficult to control. Twist's sight showed him the damage in anything he touched, which was helpful with his clock-mending business, but devastating whenever he touched a person and felt all their fears and past pains as if they were his own. Jonas's vision was greatly improved by his sight, even allowing him to glimpse the future, but it also showed him a person's death whenever he looked into their eyes. The two of them discovered that their sights didn't seem to work on each other. Whenever Jonas laid a hand on Twist, all Twist's sight showed him was a soothing white fog and an echo of Jonas's mood. Whenever Jonas looked at Twist, he saw nothing more than a glimpse of Twist's state of mind. Whenever they were close to each other, they both felt a subtle buzzing vibration at the base of their necks, which they could use to alert the others silently to danger. As they continued to travel together, Twist and Jonas grew more and more comfortable with the way their two sights interacted, and began to use it as a powerful tool in trying situations. Despite Twist's inclination for calm, quiet, and respectability, his life away from London became one of danger, intrigue, and adventure. After rescuing Mira from Nepal, he and Jonas were forced to flee from a mysterious and powerful order known as the Rooks. Twist and his friends traveled from Asia to Europe in an effort to secure their future freedom together. Along the way, they met new friends and old, and faced many nefarious foes. There were more than just Rooks to worry about, as they ran into the Rooks' rival, the equally resourceful and deeply more devious Ciphers. The Rooks, who were initially a threat to Mira's freedom, were finally forced to compromise after Twist, Jonas, and Mira managed to wreak utter havoc on the Rook forces as they battled for escape. The Rook leader, a man named Adin, agreed to give up any claim to Mira so long as he could use her to gain more information about her race of clockwork people. Mira believed herself unique and had no knowledge of any other clockwork beings, while Twist held to a promise he made to never reveal his own knowledge. When he had been searching for one final piece needed to repair Mira's clockwork form, he found clockwork people hiding in an underground city. They had only helped him in return for his complete silence about their existence. Twist's honor prevented him from breaking his promise, and so, in the end, Aiden was left with little options. Since Mira was a beautiful dancer and loved attention, Aiden offered to send her out on a public tour to dance for the masses. He hoped that showing her to the world might stir up any hidden information about the others of her race. Two friends that Twist, Jonas, and Mira had made in their travels were the beautiful and charismatic magician Tasha and her mysterious and fiercely intelligent companion Nico. They later found out that Tasha often worked for the Rooks in her travels. Being a genius with technology and electricity, Nico built marvelous magical tricks for Tasha, who performed them with effortless grace. Tasha was also sighted, and her hyper attention to details only improved her astonishing sleight of hand skills. Thanks to Tasha's involvement with the Rooks, Aiden sent her and Nico along with Twist, Jonas, and Mira to begin a double-act tour that crossed the world. Tasha performed her magic, and Mira captivated the audience with her graceful dancing. Although Jonas particularly didn't care for the idea of traveling and working alongside Rook agents, to please Mira, he and Twist both agreed to the arrangement. She and Tasha had become fast friends, and Mira was very excited about the idea of traveling the world in comfort and showing off her dancing skills to thousands. The more time they spent together, the more Twist found that he delighted in Mira's joy. He soon found that he would give almost anything just to make her smile. And now, the story continues. Taking a quick break here, and then we'll jump into the very first chapter. That is good tea. Let's begin. Chilly's silver fog crept silently over the towering eucalyptus and cypress trees at the edge of the meadow. The moist air was crisp and scented with salt, laying sparkling dew out on the grass. Sunlight, not to be left out, struggled through the high clouds and shed a dim glow over the world. Twist tried to balance his weight evenly on his feet and held his walking stick out before him hopefully. Standing 5 paces in front of him, Jonas swung a wooden stage sword easily. Twist only saw the slightest flash of decision in the other man's eyes. The wooden sword sliced down at Twist's head. He thrust his cane up to block it, out of pure instinct. He never saw Jonas's foot sweep quickly at his legs. Twist fell to the grass faster than he would have thought physically possible, his vision spinning somewhat even after he come to an abrupt stop, and elegantly collapsed on the damp grass. Jonas, standing just beside him, looked down at him with a disapproving sigh. "What were you looking at?" Jonas asked, offering a hand to help him up. Twist took the offered help and got back to his feet. The physical contact steadied his bruised senses as the familiar cool white fog in Jonas's touch washed over his sight. Twist's mind cleared again the moment Jonas let go of his hand, leaving him calm and ready once again. "I was looking at the sword that was about to crack my skull open." No, Jonas said, shaking his head. "I told you, don't worry about the sword." "Then stop swinging it at my head." Jonas gave him a level look, his normally sea-green eyes shifting to blue in Twist's sights. This, he said, holding up the sword, is made of wood. It doesn't have thoughts of its own. It has no emotions or intent. This is not your problem. I am your problem. Agreed, Twist said with a tight grin. Smartass. Look, it doesn't matter what kind of fight you get into. The weapon should never be your focus. It's the person wielding it that you should be watching. Maybe I should just get a gun or something, Twist said, looking down at his silver-hilted walking stick. The magnetically charged electric light inside of the ring of sapphire glass at the top of the cane had come in handy many times already, as the electric shock hidden in the tip. I don't think I'm cut out for swordplay. Jonas's hand moved with no warning at all, snatching the cane out of Twist's grip and flinging it away into the grass. Before Twist could level a sharp glare at Jonas, the other man had grabbed him by the shoulders and spun him around so quickly that Twist fell to his knees in the grass. Jonas's arm was around Twist's throat before he could speak, his other hand bracing his neck in a solid hold. Twist's fingers instantly scrambled over Jonas's arm as fright stole away his breath. The white fog that always followed Jonas's touch was slow in coming in this time. Now what? Jonas asked, his voice calm beside Twist's ear. Let me go, Twist grumbled, unable to free himself no matter how he pulled at the arm across his throat. His surprise finally lost control of his attention and melted into a cool calm as his sight poured Jonas's quick but steady heartbeat down his spine. That won't work at all if someone's really trying to kill you, Jonas said. I'm not talking to someone who wants to kill me. Now get off! Make me. Bite me, Twist yelled, his anger pushing away the fog in his mind. I didn't know you were into that kind of thing, Jonas said, a smile on his voice. Twist jabbed backwards with his elbows, hoping to hit anything unprotected, and tried to turn out of the vice-like grip. Let go, he grunted, somehow unable to do any harm whatsoever to the man holding him. Stop, Jonas said with a sigh. Come on, you're good at figuring things out. Now get yourself out of this on your own. Twist stopped struggling and let his arms fall uselessly to his sides. Despite his annoyance, he tried to reassess his situation. Jonas was standing behind him, while Twist knelt on the ground. Even though Twist couldn't see him, he knew that Jonas had to be leaning forward and was therefore off balance. He had been talking about balance all morning. Twist had run out of ideas to loosen his grip, but maybe he could use gravity. Twist reached up again to hold tightly to Jonas's arm, and then pulled down as quickly as he could, curling up against himself. Jonas let out a startled sound and then tumbled forward, falling in a heap beside Twist as his grip slipped away. Twist sprang to his feet and dove for his walking stick, turning just in time to catch Jonas lying on his back in the grass. Twist hit the switch at the hilt of his cane, and a tiny blue arc of lightning licked at the tip as he pointed it at Jonas's throat. Now that's what I'm talking about, Jonas said, grinning up at Twist. Twist stared at him darkly for a moment before he touched the sparking tip of his cane to Jonas's chest. Jonas yelped in an instant of pain as Twist turned away and shut it off. He put himself into a dignified posture and looked into the fog-shrouded trees, smiling lightly to himself. That bloody hurts! Good. Bastard, Jonas spat softly. Twist turned to look back at him, still wearing his satisfied smile. You did deserve it. That's not the point, Jonas muttered, rubbing at his chest with the palm of his hand. He was standing again, but he hadn't reached for his wooden sword yet. So now what, old Grand Master of all that is violent? Now, we try it one more time and see if you manage to learn anything, Jonas said, walking away to retrieve his sword. And if you have, he said, swinging the sword over his hand in a careless arc, then I get cake. Why would you get cake? Because I'm working very hard to teach someone who's not very bright. I managed to throw you on your back, Twist snapped, turning to face him fully. I never said you are hopeless, Jonas responded with a grin. Just not very bright. Twist's instinct snapped to attention, watching Jonas's still casual movement closely. He forced his considerable annoyance into his resolve and tried not to let it cloud his mind. He was tired of being caught, tripped, and thrown. Jonas looked back at his eyes, his own shifting to a soft purple color. Twist held his gaze, not caring if the other man could read his emotions or not. This time, he told himself, he'd land a bloody punch. Jonas's sword flew forward, pointed straight for Twist's chest. He knocked it aside with his cane and stepped back, desperately trying to watch for any unexpected maneuvers. The sword came back at him again, sweeping from the side, and Twist blocked it with his cane. Jonas had come closer somehow. Twist realized that he was off balance himself the instant before Jonas's free hand came flying at his chest. Twist turned quickly, letting the intended blow slide by instead, and reached out to grab Jonas's wrist, pulling it further along. Jonas stumbled for an instant, and then jerked his hand free, stepping away. There was a smile on his face now, and he stepped in a slow circle around Twist. Twist took a small victory and pulled himself back into balance. Very good, Jonas toned, grinning like a fox at an unattended chicken coop. I foresee cake in my future after all. How lovely for you, Twist muttered, not taking his eyes off of him. Jonas's eyes flashed to one side sharply, taking on a frightened gleam. Badger! Startled, Twist half turned to look at Jonas's gaze before the meaning of the word caught up to him. He swung his eyes back just in time to see the sword flying for his head once again. Sheer determination at not being beaten again helped him to duck just in time as the sword glanced off the top of his head with little effect. His anger at himself for almost falling for such a stupid ploy got him back to his full height in an instant, with his elbow up at an angle. To Twist's complete shock, the blow connected. Jonas reeled back, dropping his sword as his hands flew to his face. Twist stood still, staring. Jonas's fingers came away red and his eyes widened. Holy shit! Jonas breathed, looking back to Twist with a bloody nose and an utterly shocked expression. You hit me! I'm sorry, Twist said instantly. Jonas laughed brightly and wiped at his face with his sleeve. That's fantastic, he declared proudly. I'm getting so much cake. We're going to take a quick break here. Yes, I certainly forgot about that part of the story. And that's just the first few pages. Gonna drink a little bit more tea here. I will say, I feel as if I've forgotten my Twist voice. I'm still working on trying to get that back. Doing Jonas' voice, easy enough because it's close to my natural voice. Oh boy, I'm looking forward to doing the other voices. As always, before we continue, I would like to take the time to thank everyone who is joining this stream. I hope that you are enjoying the story thus far, as well as the reading of the stream. Now, let us continue on with the story. Twist looked out through the window beside their table at the churning blue waves below. The restaurant seemed to hang precariously over a tall cliff at the edge of the Pacific, only a few miles outside San Francisco. Pale sand and rough beach plants filled the weather-worn expanse between the city and the coast, while wide swaths of man-made forests, cypress, redwood, and Australian eucalyptus, still bore all the richest greens, even under the thin white winter sky. Enormous commercial airships and small private flying yachts drifted back and forth over the churning surf as they came to dock at the natural cliffs near the restaurant. Long, wide boardwalks of graying redwood hung out from the cliffs to greet the airships, giving a little more solid ground among the violent crags and shifting sand. Twist watched the air traffic glide silently by, while the pounding sound of the waves below bellowed up to whisper at the large glass windows. Despite the distance from the city, the Cliff House restaurant was almost full to bursting. Air travelers from all over the world and beach-going San Franciscans huddled together at the countless tables that filled the large open room. The tall vaulted ceiling above gobbled up their conversations and left the room surprisingly quiet. Large, full-pane windows filled the three walls that looked out over the ocean, leaving no need to decorate the space. Jonas, seated across the table from Twist, leaned his elbows on the white tablecloth to peer out at the western horizon with uncovered eyes. Twist tried not to stare at the slightly purple bruise that was just visible on Jonas's fair skin, around the left side of his nose. Twist also couldn't help but notice that the style of clothes that Jonas usually wore, simply cut soft browns and white cotton, with never a proper waistcoat or hat, fit in perfectly with the local patrons of the restaurant. Still, Twist had yet to meet anyone, anywhere, who wore their hair in a mess of short blonde points the way that Jonas always did. "Can you see those?" Jonas asked Twist, pointing out to sea. "I don't think so," Twist said, unable to imagine what he meant. "Those islands out there," Jonas clarified. "No, not at all," Twist answered, sipping at his iced water. There was a slice of cucumber in it that confused him slightly. "Are they pretty?" He fished a cucumber out of his glass with his fingers and ate it. "I suppose so, for lumps of rock in the sea," Jonas said, still staring. "Sometimes I wonder how far I really can see. With my sight, it's not easy to tell." Twist pulled his small copper globe out of his pocket and opened it. A tiny mote of blue light sprang into existence on the western edge of America as he did. He moved the shifting layers of copper gently until the image of the Pacific Ocean filled the surface of the globe. "Do you suppose it could be Hawaii?" "No, it couldn't be," Jonas toned, not sounding totally sure. The waitress appeared with a silver tray and placed 2 steaming cups of coffee and 1 large slice of chocolate cake with lemon yellow frosting on the table between them. She then smiled at Twist, the ends of her short dark hair falling against her neck as she tilted her head to one side. "Would you like anything else, sugar?" she asked with a clearly American accent. The sound of it still surprised him, no matter how often he heard it around him. "No, thank you," Twist said. "I don't like sugar." Jonas seemed to get something caught suddenly in his throat. He recovered quickly and then pointed to the horizon. "Are there islands out there?" he asked the waitress. "Oh, sure," she responded, glancing off into the haze. "They're Farallon Islands. On a clear day you can see them. Looks too hazy today," she said with a sigh, looking back at Twist. The waitress's eyes seemed to wander in a way that made Twist feel suddenly quite self-conscious. "Thanks," Jonas said, pulling the plate of cake in front of himself. "Call if you need anything," she said pleasantly, directly to Twist. Once she walked away, Twist gave his shoulders a small shake, feeling as though the waitress's gaze still clung to him like dust. Jonas was watching him now, smiling. "Are all Americans weird?" Twist asked him softly. "Yes, of course," Jonas answered suddenly. "Everyone knows that. But that's not your problem with that one," he added, nodding after the waitress. "What do you mean?" Jonas gave Twist the sort of smile that always came before a truly devious remark. "She thinks you're cute," he said, with way too many lilting tones. Twist's face blanked, and his whole form went suddenly still. Jonas laughed. "Well, you have such pretty dusty blue eyes," Jonas said with far too much joy. "You better get used to it, sugar." It was only now, hearing it again, and from Jonas, that Twist caught the pet name the waitress had. Sorry. Page does not want to turn. Let's try this again. It was only now, hearing it again, and from Jonas, that Twist caught the pet name that the waitress had used. But, now see here." Twist pointed an angry finger at Jonas' continued laughter. "Is this a bad time?" a voice asked from beside the table. Twist snapped his glare away from Jonas' smiling face to see Mira and Tasha standing together, watching them carefully. Mira's copper skin shone brightly against a gently ruffled, pure white dress that clung tightly to her slender clockwork form. A wide-brimmed hat sat on her maroon wire hair, framing her face in a heavenly white sweep. Standing beside her in an emerald satin gown, black lace gloves, and a short black jacket, Tasha looked far better suited to a candlelight evening than the bright light of day. "Mira, great timing," Jonas said brightly. "Tell me, don't you think Twist is cute?" "Will you shut up?" Twist snapped at him angrily. Jonas fell into laughter again. "Should we come back later?" Tasha asked softly. "If you two need to be alone." "What does that mean?" Twist asked her sharply. Jonas seemed to be having trouble catching his breath now, while Tasha was also smiling a little evilly. Have they both finally gone mad?" Nico asked as he stepped up beside Tasha. His practically luminous blue eyes didn't look at all amused in his pale, young, angular face. Standing tall and thin beside Tasha, Nico's fully black attire made him appear to be more of a shadow than a man. "Possibly," Tasha said, nodding. "No, they're just being silly again," Mira said with a long-suffering sigh. She took the empty seat beside Twist and looked at him seriously. "Now, darling, what's all this got to do with you being cute?" Tasha and Nico took their seats as well. "Isn't he, though?" Jonas said, gazing wistfully at Twist for a moment. The mask broke into a quiet laugh before Twist truly needed to hit him. "Yes, of course," Mira said, staring at Jonas curiously. "Wait, what?" Twist asked her, his anger shattering into shards of sudden confusion. He felt his face warm up slightly when she looked to him. "Oh, well, she trailed off quickly, looking to hide her face from him. "All right, now that really is cute," Jonas said, pointing at Mira's blush-proof copper face. Tasha nodded. Nico gave a silent sigh. He pulled a penny dreadful out of a pocket and opened it to the bookmark. "Anyway, how was the training?" Mira asked, her voice higher than it should have been. "He hit me," Jonas said happily, pointing to the faint bruise on his face. "A good solid blow, too. Isn't it glorious? Oh, how lovely, Tasha said uncertainly. Now that I think about it, Jonas said to Twist, have you actually hit anyone before? I mean, not with a weapon or anything, but just a good punch or elbow to the face? Not that I remember, Twist said, trying to think back. I learned to stop touching people at all when I was pretty young. Actually hitting anyone, except for you, of course, wouldn't be worth the vision. My sight would definitely pick up something. Wow, Jonas said, looking at him with pride. First blood. You should be celebrating too, he said, and gestured to the cake in front of him. You know I don't like sweets. Freak. Jonas smiled fondly at him before he took another bite of his cake. Twist gave a sigh, already getting accustomed to the new friendly insult that Jonas had begun to use in the oddest situations. For reasons well beyond Twist's power of understanding, Jonas got quite angry if anyone else even got close to calling Twist a freak. I wish I had been there to watch, Mira said to Twist. I'm sure you're quite dashing. Well, I was dashing, Jonas said around a bite of cake, and Twist fell down a lot. Did you have fun shopping? Twist asked Mira, turning his full attention on her. Oh yes, she said, smiling to him. There are so many beautiful things in the city. I think I like America. I'm glad to hear it, Twist said back, his face taking on a soft smile as he looked at her bright, happy blue jewel eyes. We're going to New York next, so we're going to be in America for a little while yet. How nice, Mira said brightly. Ah, I see your friend showed up, the waitress said as she walked up to the table. And what can I get you? She asked Tasha and Nico before her gaze fell on Mira. She didn't seem nearly as surprised by her appearance as people usually were. Instead, she seemed merely thoughtful. Just some coffee for me, please, Tasha said to the waitress. Is that any good? Nico asked Jonas, glancing to the cake. Quite good, Jonas said, nodding. And it tastes rather like victory. I'll have a slice too, thanks, Nico said, returning his eyes to his book. I'm fine, thank you, Mira said, noticing that the waitress hadn't taken her eyes off of her for a moment. The waitress gave her the flash of a polite smile and looked to Twist. Anything else for you? She asked Twist, her voice a little softer. Twist looked away from her quickly, feeling highly conspicuous once again. We're fine, thanks, Jonas said through a grin. I didn't ask you, the waitress replied sharply. Shocked by her tone, everyone at the table looked up at her. The waitress took a breath and seemed to pull herself into a taller posture. I'll have your order in a moment, she said, walking away. That girl is weird even by American standards, Jonas said softly. Hush, Tasha said to him quickly. I think she heard you. What? Jonas asked. How could she? She looked back the moment you said that, Tasha whispered to him. She looked hurt. Jonas hurt someone's feelings? No, I never believed that, Nico said with no emotion whatsoever in his voice. Jonas gave an unamused huff. She couldn't have heard you before, could she? Twist asked softly. She'd have to have superhuman hearing to catch anything in this place, Jonas said, looking up to the vaulted ceiling. All the sound just gets trapped up there, he said with a point. None of it travels very far beyond each table. It's ingenious, really. It was only a few moments later that the waitress reappeared with Tasha's coffee and Nico's cake. The table fell totally silent as she placed the items on the table. The waitress seemed to ignore them all and looked at Twist as if trying to come to some sort of decision. Finally, after an awkward pause, she reached into the pocket of her apron and pulled out a plain white envelope. She held it out to Twist with a resigned expression. Twist reached out to take it. Just think about it, all right? The waitress said softly. You deserve better friends. The moment the envelope was in Twist's hand, she turned and walked away quickly. The others looked to Twist expectantly. He opened the envelope and found only a white card inside. It was of a heavy stock and had a golden border, with black writing in a flowing hand on the front of it reading 11:30 and the date. Only an instant after Twist touched the card itself, his sight burned with a sudden vision. His awareness flew out of the restaurant on the cliff, racing over the sand and back into the city. Streets and houses rushed by at a dizzy speed until all came sharply to a halt before a large gated house. The vision paused for a moment while the house numbers glowed brightly in his mind. Then, just as suddenly, it vanished. The card fell from Twist's fingers as he gasped against the sharp, burning pain behind his eyes. He held his head in his hands and tried in vain to make the world stop spinning. The pain was so shocking and so intense that nothing else in the world could catch his attention. His thoughts ran screaming in all directions. Twist! Oh, my darling! Mira shrieked, reaching for him. Wait! Jonas said, already out of his seat and hurrying to Twist. Mira looked up at him in horror, her hands a hair's breadth away from Twist. Just wait a second, Jonas said, kneeling beside Twist and reaching out slowly to his shaking, curled-up form. Twist felt the buzz in his neck grow above the unconscious level it usually hid in these days, and he reached out for it in the chaos of his pain and whirling thoughts. Then, somewhere very far away, he sensed a warmth at his back, though he noticed no physical contact. Slowly, a cool brightness began to fill the horizon of his mind, like swiftly approaching rain. Twist managed to realize what was happening outside of his own chaos and reached out for the light. He felt himself ease in anticipation. Jonas placed his hand gently on Twist's back in obvious response to the lessened tension he could likely feel in Twist's sight. Twist took in a sharp breath as the chilly white calm washed over his mind. In a moment, the pain receded to the farthest reaches of his attention, and his thoughts fell still and steady. He opened his eyes and found Jonas watching him carefully. In the space of 2 breaths, Twist felt like himself again. Jonas's deep purple eyes lightened back to soft gray, and he took his hand away. What the hell was that? Jonas asked Twist. An address, Twist said, looking to the card that lay on the table. It was so intense, but there was no emotion at all. I never get visions off things like this, he said, gesturing to but not touching the card. It's not broken. It doesn't feel anything. I shouldn't have seen anything at all. Jonas looked to the card with a frown. An instant later, his eyes snapped closed, and he gave a hiss of pain. Twist felt the buzz in his own neck leap sharply in the burning heat. Twist reached out quickly and took hold of Jonas, with one hand on each side of his face. Open your eyes, Twist ordered, holding his own eyes open and ready. His sight flowed through the touch and echoed with the same pain and dizzy whirl of uncontrolled thoughts that he had felt inside himself a moment ago, now filling Jonas's mind with fire. It took a moment for Jonas to comply. Twist waited patiently. When Jonas opened his eyes, the color of them flashed quickly between rich blues, purples, and deep blood reds in Twist's sight. As Jonas stared back at him, the colors lightened and slowed their shifting. Jonas took one deep breath, and then another, and Twist felt him relax back down to normal. Are you all right? Twist asked, dropping his hands to Jonas's shoulders, but not looking away from his eyes. Yeah, Jonas said, breaking the visual contact with a nod. I think so. Was it a house? Number 614. Yeah, Jonas said, reaching up to rub at his eyes. Twist realized then that he was kneeling close beside Jonas on the floor. He got back up in his chair. "What is that thing?" Jonas asked, getting back to his feet as well. He pulled his goggles up from where they hung around his neck and covered his eyes with them. "It's an invitation," Tasha said. She was holding it now, running her gloved fingertip along the edge of it. Twist watched her, looking for signs of pain. "Doesn't that hurt?" he asked her. "Not at all," she said, looking up to him. "Are you two all right?" "What is that?" Twist asked her, speaking deliberately. "It's a sight circle invitation," Tasha said, putting it down on the table. "Haven't you ever seen one before?" "Those simpering lovey-dovey posers?" Jonas spat. "Why would they make those stupid invitations painful all of a sudden?" "It's not painful to me." "What's a sight circle?" Twist asked. "A load of simpering lovey-dovey posers singing campfire songs and talking about how they feel," Jonas answered quickly, his voice dripping with disdain. "People with minor sights, or people who just want to feel special, all meeting in someone's mother's house. They're not all like that," Tasha said with a frown. "There's one in Prague that boasts to have professional artists, poets, and philosophers as members." "Everything's more stylish in Prague," Jonas said with a dismissive wave of his hand. "Wait, you mean people with sights gather together?" Twist asked, struggling to keep the conversation on the right topic. "That's today's date. They're meeting here in San Francisco tonight." "You want to go?" Jonas sounded offended by the very idea. "Well, I don't know," he muttered, glancing to the card. "Meeting you was a good thing. Meeting Tasha was a good thing." "How about meeting my sister?" Jonas asked darkly. "I got Mira because of meeting her," Twist answered, looking to her. He was startled to find a deeply worried expression on her face. Her hands were clasped tightly together in her lap. He gave her a curious and hopeful smile. She looked to his hands, then back to his eyes. Twist reached out to lay a hand on her arm, hoping to understand what she was feeling. He frowned as nothing but concern flooded into his sight, and wondered what could possibly make her so upset. After a moment of contact, she took his hand in one of hers and leaned closer, reaching up to stroke his face with the other hand and peer deeply into his eyes. "Are you all right now?" she asked him softly. "I'm fine," he said, smiling as warmly as he could. He felt hope began to grow out of her fear. "He was only in pain for a moment, Mira," Jonas said gently. She looked to his covered eyes, not taking her hands away from Twist. "He really is fine now," Jonas added with a smile. True relief broke over Twist, following the wave in Mira's heart. She nodded and sat back in her chair, but she didn't let go of Twist's hand. "You'll believe him, but not me?" Twist asked Mira suddenly. She looked at him sheepishly. "You always say you're fine when you're not." "True," Jonas said with a nod. Tasha nodded silently as well. Twist tried to swallow the bite of their implications, wondering if the burden of other people's concern might lighten over time. And we're going to take another break. I can feel my throat getting a little dry here. My gosh, good tea. I think I say this every time I drink Clockmaker tea. It is delicious. And once again, unpaid sponsor time. And I still do not think they know I do this. However, if you want delicious tea that I'm drinking today, try Friday afternoon. As you can tell, I'm trying out my advertiser voice here. Friday afternoon, the amazing tea shop in Seattle, Washington. Oh my. Delicious. Sounds good to me so far. Totally. And oh, okay, this was sounds good to me so far was for the me questioning my voice acting for Twist. And traditional medicines, throat coat tea is pretty good for that too. Now, time to make pierogies for National Pierogi Day on October 8th. To be honest, I still don't know for sure what a pierogi is. I've been seeing the word pierogi regularly lately, and I think I should just find out exactly what this is. Let's see. Taking a quick check here. Pierogi. What does this look like? It is a dish. Apparently, the word pierogi comes from Polish. From a Polish word. Let's see, a generic term for filled dumplings. Oh. I may have eaten a pierogi and not realized it. I would say I'm not picky about my food, but that's not necessarily true. It's yummy, that's the most important thing. I accept that answer. I accept this statement. As people may be able to deduce, I am not much of a food person, but I do appreciate good food. And speaking of, well, not speaking of good food, but I do still want to take the time to say thank you to everyone joining me for this stream tonight. I appreciate the support, the chats, and everyone who may be listening in the background. Possibly, I would assume washing dishes, folding clothes, maybe just lying in bed, staring into the ceiling, and enjoying the story. Either way, I appreciate everyone out there. So thank you. And we're going to take another sip soon. All right. Let us continue the story. Twist sat on the thick ledge inside the open window, enjoying the slight chill of the San Francisco winter air against his back. He looked over his shoulder to gaze out at the rolling hills of Dent City, glowing amber under the stars, and wondered idly why the houses on the steepest slopes didn't just slide away over time. In the distance, the shining green bay had turned into a black mirror, but was still crowded with ships of every possible design. He turned back to look into the small apartment room above the theater. The main room badly needed a new coat of emerald paint. The blonde wooden molding had been varnished in decades, and the golden floorboards were so scratched that they needed replacing more than anything else. The furniture was in a similar state, but nothing was actually broken or unusable. Jonas had called the two-bedroom apartment with its attached kitchen off the main room careworn rather than run down. Twist had to admit that whatever it lacked in sophistication, it made up for in a homely sort of comfort. Something about the scent of the old wood, steeped in years of salty moist air, eucalyptus and evergreens, struck Twist as inexplicably pleasant. Jonas sat to one side of the room. Jonas sat to one side of the round wooden table, staring with palpable concentration into one of the large crystal balls that Tasha used occasionally in her act. Twist saw nothing but clear glass in the other man's hand, but knew better to ask what Jonas saw. A murmur of conversation wafted to him from the street as the night's guests began to empty out of the theater, drawing Twist's mind back to Mira's latest performance, less than an hour ago. She had stood statue still in the center of the stage after the curtains were drawn back, until the music began to play. Twist could still hear the collective gasp at her very first movement, raising one arm in a subtle and fluid arc before her eyes opened in the gliding gaslight and her body swayed into the song. No matter how many times she performed, no matter if she was seen in the city before or not, they always gasped the first time. Even if the poster said that the Clockwork Girl would dance, no one ever guessed that she would move so smoothly or with such lovely and elegant grace. After the first few moments, the audience would always begin to smile unconsciously as they watched her. All whispered conversation would fall silent. Mira's face would match the emotions of the song as well as her dancing form, but Twist could always see the joy hidden in her glittering blue eyes. Whenever she danced alone, she seemed to glow with a natural light of her own. But when she danced for an enraptured crowd, she was in bliss. Every time Twist watched her dance, he craved to reach out and touch her, to taste that perfect joy. It was only after the applause, once she'd taken her bows and run backstage, that he could catch her. She always found him, and her bright, heady excitement always felt the same, no matter how many times she danced. Twist listened to the excited and happy sounds that rose to his ears from the exiting audience, and felt a jolt of pride. None of them would see her again except by chance, but once Tasha's act was over and Mira had changed out of her stage costume, she would come in through the apartment door and run to his waiting arms as she did after every show. She always stayed backstage to watch Tasha's act, but she never waited a moment longer than Tasha's first bow before she came back to him. "I must be doing something wrong," Jonas said suddenly, putting the crystal down on the table and rubbing at his eyes. "All I see in that thing are funny shapes. Aren't you supposed to see spirits or the future or something by looking into crystal balls?" "Maybe your future has a funny shape." "You might be right about that," Jonas said, smiling up at Twist. "I do live on the road with a bunch of freaks, after all." "Mira's not a freak," Twist snapped, narrowing his eyes at Jonas. "My mistake," Jonas said, smiling a little more widely. "I live on the road with a freaky magician, a freaky Serbian inventor, a totally unfreaky Clockwork Girl, and you." "That's right," Twist said with a nod. "It's Mira and her 4 freaks. Why does that sound like a bad pantomime?" "Hey," Jonas snapped, looking serious. "Nobody calls you a freak but me, remember? That includes you." Twist gave a sigh. "Talking to you makes me dizzy sometimes." "Are you implying that that's my problem?" Jonas asked, appearing aloof. "Well, I would say that is our own shortcoming, but you might get offended on my behalf." Twist frowned into space. "Wait, is that right? Hold on, I need to draw myself a map of this conversation." Jonas laughed and seemed about to form a reply, but thankfully, Twist was rescued as the apartment door opened and Mira stepped through it. She had changed back into her ruffled white dress, but her smile matched the one she had worn on stage as she'd taken her bows. Twist was on his feet instantly, while she bounded happily across the room and threw her arms around his neck. His sight washed over with the bright and bubbling flavor of Mira after a show, and he held her close for a moment, savoring every sense of her. She pulled back just enough to smile at him, leaving her hands on his shoulders. "They stood up and clapped for so long this time," she said, surprise still ringing in her voice. "I think they really liked my dance." "I'm sure they did," Twist said, her pleasure melding into his pride for her. "I swear your dancing gets lovelier every time." Mira giggled brightly and covered her mouth with one hand, sending a rush of glee over the top of her sparkling waves of happiness. Twist felt lightheaded for a moment and let his hands drop away from her, leaving only her other hand on his shoulder to connect them. The effects of her on his sight lessened until he felt stable again. It was only then that he realized that Tasha and Nico had also returned and were talking with Jonas. "It's not going to start for an hour," Tasha was saying to Jonas. "We have plenty of time." "But what's the point?" Jonas asked her. "We've already been here for the week. We're leaving tomorrow, aren't we?" "It might be fun," Tasha said. "I've met many interesting people at things like this before, in other cities." "I told you everything is better in Prague. Not just in Prague," Tasha said quickly. "What are they talking about?" Twist asked Mira. Mira watched them now too, glancing curiously between them in turn, and gave Twist a shrug. "The circle," Tasha said to Twist. "It starts in an hour. Didn't you want to go?" "Oh yes," Twist said, his mind returning to the world outside of Mira. "I did actually. It sounds interesting." "It probably won't be," Jonas said, crossing his arms. "Why are you so against attending?" Tasha asked him gently. Twist looked to him curiously. Jonas gave a sigh. "I've been to 3 before, in England and in South Africa," he said. "They're all a waste of time. Well, for me anyway. Ira had a great time." He added bitterly, "She loves all that fairy loving, let's share our feelings and talk about how great it is to be magical stuff." "It's not all about fairies," Tasha said levelly. "Fairies?" Twist asked, suddenly confused. "Oh, you never heard about the fairies?" Jonas sounded impressed. "Believe me, ignorance is bliss." Tasha gave a sigh and shook her head before she looked to Twist. "Some people believe that we have sights because we were born with the souls of reincarnated fae," she said. "The legend says that if a high-level fae dies at the same moment that a baby takes his first breath, the fae soul can be reborn in the human child." "What, like changelings?" Twist asked. "No, not exactly," Tasha said, looking at Twist with surprise. "Changelings are said to be human children who are stolen and replaced by full-blood, low-level fairies. I am speaking about the souls of dead royal fairy ending up in people. But how do you know about changelings?" "I grew up surrounded by orphans," Twist said with a shrug. "Some of them would rather believe they were taken from their families by changelings than simply abandoned." The others looked to him silently, their eyes suddenly filled with sympathy. Twist looked away from all of them. "Anyway," he said, "people in these circles believe in fairies." "Yeah," Jonas said, "and you two want to go hang out with them all night." "I think Twist should go to a circle," Tasha said, looking at him thoughtfully. "Everyone with a sight should go at least once. I'm not going to drag you along if you really don't want to come," she said to Jonas. "But it would be more fun if we all went together." She reached out to pet at his arm gently. Jonas watched her hand and gave another sigh. "Fine, whatever," he said, looking at Twist as his eyes shifted into Lilac. "I'll go with you. I'm not doing anything else tonight." Twist felt the slightest change in the vibration at his neck. Though Jonas's face showed no signs of it, Twist felt a hint of his apprehension. Something about going to the sight circle was worrying him, although he didn't seem inclined to say what. We're going to take another break here. Not to be confused with Pervosky. And back to the internet we go. Pervosky. I am learning a lot today. Pervosky. I spelled it wrong, but it's okay. My search engine says that's also okay. Russian baked or fried yeast leavened boat-shaped buns with a variety of fillings. Oh my goodness. Oh, there's a popular street food. Now that I'm looking at this food, I am actually getting a bit hungry. That does look rather delicious. I see everyone's got a dumpling. It does seem to be a very common food around the world, some form of dumpling, which I am not opposed to. Ooh. I feel that we certainly have time for one more chapter. Possibly two, depending how fast these chapters go. Oh my. I'm burping a little bit, but hopefully it can't be heard as I announce to the world that I'm doing so. As always, I hope that everyone here, whether you are in chat or are lurking, I hope that you are enjoying the story thus far, as well as the reading of this story. I will say, not doing a reading stream after 2 weeks, it takes a little time to get used to reading out loud on stream again. But we will continue to do our best here and persevere. And with that, let's go into the next chapter. The cab left Twist, Tasha, and Jonas outside the same house Twist had seen in the searing vision of the invitation. Mira had been happy to hear that people without sights weren't generally admitted to sight circles, but she stayed behind with Nico nevertheless. In the glowing streetlights, the red and white Victorian townhouse looked even more mysterious and watchful than it had in the vision. Tasha took the lead, walking first through the black iron gate and up the short flight of stairs to the front door. Twist followed after her, as Jonas drifted behind him. When Tasha knocked on the door, it opened to reveal a tall man with dark brown skin and black eyes and a perfectly white suit. His waistcoat and cravat were as black as his eyes, leaving the red rose pin on his lapel and the red ribbon around his white bowler hat as the only two shocks of color. He gave Tasha a cordial smile. "Do you have an invitation?" he asked her pleasantly, with a warm voice and a rolling American accent. Tasha handed him the white envelope with the card inside. "Natasha Samara, +2, she said with a gesture to Twist and Jonas. The man's eyes took on a surprised light. "It's an honor to have you join us, Miss Samara," he said brightly. "I thought you looked familiar to me," he added with a smile. "Tasha, please," she responded cordially. "Tasha," he repeated, as if enjoying the taste of her name. "And are your companions sighted as well?" "You bet," Jonas said, giving him a tight smile through the opaque lens of his black goggles. The man at the door stepped back and offered Tasha an inviting gesture. "Welcome," he said as they stepped inside. "Please take a seat in the parlor and help yourselves to a drink. We'll be starting very soon." Twist and Jonas followed Tasha through the narrow hallway into a large parlor at the back of the house. A white marble fireplace stood in the center of the back wall, flanked by white French windows that looked out into a wild, dark garden. The ruby red walls bore framed paintings of scantily clad. Yes, Twist realized, there were fairies in all of the paintings. There were also large, rough-looking crystals of varying colors displayed on every available surface, and green potted ferns in each corner. A wide circle of chairs sat on the square white carpet that lay over the dark wood floor, and most of them were occupied. The other guests looked up when Tasha entered, their eyes curious and excited. Twist noticed that each of the other 6 guests varied widely in race and age. Tasha stepped easily into the circle and took a tall glass of bubbling champagne from the table in the center. The soft conversations fell silent as the others watched her. She took a second glass and turned around to Twist, where he remained in the shadows of the hallway. "Come in, Twist," she said to him gently, holding one glass out to him. "These are your people too." Twist did as he was told and took the glass from her, feeling the rest of the room watch him now as well. Tasha handed the other glass to Jonas when he followed Twist, and then took one for herself. She gave the others in the room a charming smile. "Two new friends," she said, raising her glass in Twist's direction. Twist raised his glass to meet hers with a bright ringing chime, and watched as everyone, but Jonas, raised their glasses as well before taking a sip of the wine. Jonas drained his glass at once and put it back on the tray before taking another. He then turned to sit in one of the empty chairs, his goggles still firmly in place over his eyes. "I'm sorry," said an older man with long white hair and a braid down his back, "but I have to say, you look so much like Natasha Samara, the magician." "Please, call me Tasha," she said to him with a smile. A murmur of delight bubbled up from the others. "I saw your performance tonight," the old man said, smiling to her now. "It was masterful, and the lovely little clockwork dancer was extraordinary as well." "Thank you," Tasha said gracefully. "I'll pass your compliments on to her." The older man gave a light laugh. "What a surprise to have a celebrity with us tonight," he said, looking to one of the others. A young girl in a pink silk gown with long black hair, a smoothly angular face, and narrow black eyes. The girl nodded to him with a smile before looking back to Tasha in unmasked wonder. Tasha gave Twist a subtle nod and smile before she turned away to step closer to the older man and the girl. Twist marveled as she managed to fall into a conversation between the 3 of them so quickly. He turned around to find Jonas still sitting silently as he stared blindly at the bubbles in his glass. Twist sat in the empty chair beside him and was happy to see Tasha swallow up the attentions of everyone else in the room. "She's good to have around," Twist said softly to Jonas. "Anyone standing next to her is as good as invisible." Jonas smiled lightly. "She even makes me want to watch her. You lucky dog, you," he added, seeming to glance up at Twist through his goggles. "You got to dance with her," Twist said back. "All I get to do is look." "True," Jonas said with a happy-sounding sigh. "Her hands are always warm, too." Twist shook his head and smiled, watching as the rest of the room tried to get into the conversation with the charming magician. Not long after, the man who opened the door walked into the room with the waitress from the Cliff House restaurant, who now wore a soft blue dress and a white shawl. She looked around the room quickly until her eyes found Twist. She smiled brightly and hurried to sit in the empty chair beside him. "You came," she said, leaning close to him in her excitement. Twist leaned back out of reflex, but she didn't seem to notice. "I'm so glad you did," she said. The man from the door busied himself clearing the empty glasses on the small table and disappeared down the hallway. "Yes, thank you for the invitation," Twist said stiffly. She looked at him thoughtfully for a moment, and then put on a knowing smile. "First time to one of these?" "Is it that obvious?" he asked, trying to sound nonchalant. "You sound nervous," she said, reaching out as if she meant to pat his arm. "Don't worry." Twist jumped to his feet before her hand got close, backing a step away from her as his heart shuddered quickly in his chest. She stared at him in shock as Twist tried desperately not to look as startled as he felt. "Everything all right?" the man from the door asked as he walked back into the room with a fresh tray of full champagne glasses. Twist struggled for enough clarity to respond. "It's not you, it's him," Jonas said to the waitress. "Please, don't touch him." "Oh," she toned, looking to Twist. "I'm sorry." "It's fine," he said, sitting down again. This time, she was the one to lean away slightly. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to jump like that." "Well, this is a good time as any," the man from the door said, putting down the tray. He stood up, looked around the room with a smile. "Does anyone have any requests? I know we have some people with hyper-hearing, and it seems that you would like a little personal space," he said to Twist with a surprising depth of understanding in his voice. "Yes, please," the older man with the white braids said. "If we could avoid any voices above normal levels, I appreciate it." The waitress nodded after him. Twist considered speaking up, and his heart started to pound again. "Look, don't touch him," Jonas said, nodding to Twist. "And don't expect me to take these off," he added, tapping his goggles with a finger. Twist would have thanked him for saying it for him, but everyone was still staring at them. "Anyone else?" the man in the white suit asked the room. Some people said no, while others only shook their heads or offered polite smiles. "Then I think it's time we get started." He took a seat in front of the fireplace. Tasha sat in an empty chair beside the girl in the pink dress, and everyone else seemed to ready themselves by sitting primly in their chairs and looking to the man in the white suit. Twist watched them all carefully, utterly unsure of what to expect next. "Since we have newcomers tonight, let's do the full introduction, shall we?" the man in the white suit said. "Let's all hear your name, where you're from, and as brief or long a description of your site as you'll like to go. I'll go first. My name is Daniel. I was born here in San Francisco, and I can name any flower by scent alone." He then looked to the man sitting beside him. "Tom, would you like to go next?" "Sure." Tom was a heavy-set man in a gray suit, wearing a full wear beard. "I'm Tom. I'm originally from Cleveland, and I can see the dark as well. I can see in the dark as well as the light." He looked to his left expectantly at the older man with the long white braid. "My name is Running Bear, but you all know to call me Teddy," he said. "I'm from Montana originally, and my site lets me hear very high frequencies, or dog hearing as I like to call it." When he gave an amiable smile to a few of the others, they returned it quietly. "Of course, when people yell, it can reverberate off of glass," he added with a sigh. "Restaurants give me a headache sometimes." He then looked to the girl in pink. "I'm Yumi," she said, her voice colored with a slight accent. "I was born in Tokyo, Japan, but my family lives here now. I can feel vibrations in the ground. And by the way, I think there will be a small quake in a few days," she added with a sigh. "Not a big one, but you might feel it. The ground hasn't been very still for the last week." "Thank you for telling us," Daniel said. Yumi smiled and looked to Tasha. "Well, I am Natasha Samara, but please call me Tasha. I am from Moscow, and I can sense details quickly with all 5 of my senses." She then looked to the next person in the circle. "Ellen," said a woman with golden hair, wearing a fur shawl over her black and white striped dress. "I'm from New York, and my sight lets me see fine details up close as if I was using a magnifying glass." She then looked to Jonas. His jaw tightened. "I'm Jonas. I'm from..." He paused, frowning. "Well, I was born in London anyway. I can see stars in daylight." He then looked to Twist through his black lenses. Twist stared back at him, amazed by how little he managed to say. Compared to the sights of the others in this group, his sight and Jonas's seemed vastly more powerful and dangerous. As everyone else's eyes turned to him, Twist realized that he didn't want to give the whole truth either. I'm Twist. I'm from London. My sight lets me sense damage in things I touch. I fix clocks for a living, he added, hoping to keep their imaginations from wandering too far. None of them looked horrified, and some actually smiled when he mentioned the clocks. He looked to the waitress beside him. Well, I'm Clarice, she said. Like Daniel, I'm from here also, and I could focus on distinct voices from far away and in a crowd. She looked at Jonas pointedly. You'll be amazed what I pick up. You know that I was teasing Twist and not you, right? He asked her. Her eyes darkened. He's sorry if he offended you, Twist said to her gently. He's just too proud to say it. Jonas gave a soundless huff and crossed his arms. Clarice's eyes seemed to soften when Twist gave her a hopeful smile, and she turned to the last person in the circle. He was middle-aged, with bronze-colored skin, thin wire-framed silver glasses, and a bright red fez, on his head, which went oddly with his gray suit and brown-striped wool sweater. I'm Malik, he said with a rich voice and a soft accent that reminded Twist of Egypt. I was born near Baghdad. I'm living here in California now. I can sense a person's intent when they are faced with an obvious choice, which is a shame because I dearly love chess. He gave a sigh. Finding an opponent who can surprise me is getting harder all the time. He then looked to Daniel. Well, thank you everyone, Daniel said to the room. Now, unless anyone has an announcement to make, I think it's time for our first exercise. He paused for a moment, glancing around at his quiet guests. No one made a move to speak. Jonas finished his current glass of champagne and switched it for another from the table. All right then, Daniel said with an eager smile. I am really excited that we have so many people here tonight. I've been wanting to try this for a while. He stood up and walked around to the back of his chair. We're going to break into small groups, based on each of our 4 enhanced senses, and I have a short discussion about how we relate to the world with a similar viewpoint. Jonas gave Twist a weighted look. Despite the goggles, Twist felt the blame for whatever was to come fall squarely on his shoulders for being curious. Around them, the others seemed to be excited and eager to begin. Ellen, Jonas, please pick up your chairs and gather over here by Tom, Daniel said. Clarice and Teddy, why don't you go sit with Tasha? And Tasha, please focus on your heightened hearing for now during your discussion. Having all 5 senses affected is almost like cheating, you know. Tasha laughed cordially. I'll do my best, she said pleasantly. All right, Daniel said, looking over the rest. Now Yumi, why don't you join Twist? And Malik, would you mind joining them also? I know your sight is conceptual, but not the problem, Malik said, already getting up from his seat. Wonderful, Daniel said. I'll move around among you. Now, let's get started. And with that, we are coming to the end of the reading stream. We are 44 pages into the book. Whew. And I will say so far, I still do not remember what happens next. I vaguely remember the sight circles, but I do not remember what happens next. So I am looking forward to seeing what happens next Saturday, October 15th. I've had a habit of saying September a lot for this month, but it is only the 8th. Maybe that is why I'm still stuck in September. Nevertheless, I would like to thank everyone who took the time out of their Saturday, or Sunday to join me in this reading stream. I hope that you are enjoying this amazing story, which is part of the Clockwork Twist series by Emily Thompson. I also hope that you are enjoying the reading of this series. Good idea. Let's not stop after the next chapter. No worries. We have reached the end of the reading stream time that I give myself. So again, barring any incidentals, we will continue the story next Saturday, 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. And with that, I wish everybody a lovely night, a lovely day, and thank you again for all the warm compliments, and I will see you next time. Until then, take care, and bye-bye.